Morning. Hi. We
Hi,
made it. Okay,
we
great.
made it. Hi,
Yay.
everybody.
Oh, I love technology. I love
We
tech.
love technology.
Just love it. Just
It's the
love it.
best.
Yeah, denial ain't just a river in Egypt either. Yeah, just love technology. Okay, we made it. We didn't get to actually go live on Instagram as we had hoped, but we are here live on YouTube. So let's dive right in.
Let's dive
Okay.
right in. Number 3.
Number 3. So we've been talking about awakening intuition. We've been talking about what is intuition, what really connects us, what it's really all about, so on and so forth. And I need to get a little focused here because the deck has thrown me off.
I have a question
Yeah,
that
go
may
ahead.
help the flow. One of the things that really stood out to me that you said is you said, have you ever heard of like masculine intuition? Everybody's
Yeah,
answer
yeah,
was like, no, feminine
yeah.
intuition. But we know feminine and masculine are part of it. So can
Right.
you
So
talk
this,
about
well,
that?
great segue. Okay, so typically we will hear people say, oh, it's women's intuition. We don't hear the statement, oh, it's men's intuition. Okay, it's just a societal, what do you call that, I don't know what that is, but anyway, it's a thing society says. Okay, again, I love technology. You'd see me 5 minutes ago. Okay, so the masculine and feminine balance is essential, and this is because the masculine is the thinker and the intuition comes from the feeling body. The feminine is the feeler. Now, this has nothing to do with males and females. This is whether you're a male or a female, you're going to have both masculine and feminine attributes. Okay. So the masculine, whether you're a male or a female, doesn't matter. Gender is not relevant here. Okay. Masculine is the mental, it's the logic, it's the container. Okay. The feminine is the feeling, it's the infinite space. The logical mind functions through the brain, the head, and the feminine feeling comes through the heart. So, society over eons of time has dismantled this connection, which was innately within all of us. So, everybody had masculine and feminine. Now, the masculine will lead with the mental, the feminine will lead with the feeling. And the name of the game is to find the balance. And when it comes to our intuition, we cannot achieve heightened intuition until the feminine rules. This is why you'll hear me say, feel first, think second. Okay. And society teaches us to think first, to repress our feelings, to suppress our feelings, to ignore our feelings, so on and so forth. Okay. And it doesn't work because we need to work in tandem. We need them to work together. And this is why the masculine feminine balance is such a huge topic in global communities right now, because there are those forces that are trying to disrupt that balance so that we cannot achieve the connection. So if we look at the stages of creation or the chakras, okay, the first chakra is the throat. It's masculine. It's the container. It's your thought. It's your idea. It's your wish. It's your want. It's your need. Okay. It's your desire, ideally.
So
The
it would be
second,
masculine. Would that
pardon
be
me, and
would
it's
that be
masculine.
masculine
Yes,
then? Okay.
it's masculine. So it operates through the logical mind. The
Okay.
second stage of creation is the crown chakra, which is actually also a masculine quality. Of the 7 qualities, 4 are feminine and 3 are masculine attributes. And all that does is simply tell you how it operates. Okay, so the masculine is something that you can really talk about. The feminine is something you must feel. So the second stage of creation is the crown. And it says, is what I desire, what I want, is it possible in this reality? And if it is, then you go on to the next step, which is the heart. And the heart is actually where your power is. So 20% of the creative process is the throat. It's the idea, it's the intention, it's the container. If what you desire is possible, we go to the crown, and the crown says, is what you desire possible in this physical 3D reality? And if it is, now you go to the heart to check in with how you feel about this desire. And the feminine feeling heart, again, has nothing to do with gender, is 80% of the creative process.
Wow.
So then we go to the fourth chakra, which is the root. And the root chakra says, is what I desire, which is doable, that I really love, okay? And it also goes the other way, what I'm afraid of. Remember, feeling is power, whether you're feeling fear and drawing through fear, or you're feeling love and drawing through love to the universe, to creative source, doesn't really much matter because you just get mirrored. It's just a mirror immediately. Your wish is my command, says the universe. So the
Mm,
fourth chakra says, is what you desire that's doable, that you love, or that you fear, is it for the greater good of all, causing harm to none, including self?
that's huge.
Now, if it causes harm to you or to anyone else and you don't even know it, then there's going to be a limited life for whatever it is that you're creating. It will not be sustainable. It will not endure, because divine grace, the universe, does not give creative force, energy, sustainability, and momentum to something that isn't for the greater good of all, any more than a good mother or father, okay, would hurt one child to serve the other child. Okay, it doesn't work that way. So then here's my point. The fifth chakra, the fifth stage of creation, is the third eye.
Mm,
And the third eye is blocked by the logical mind. It's blocked by intellectual pride and reasoning. So women, through societal conditioning, have been taught, don't think, just feel. But we're not going to recognize your feelings. We're not going to respect your feelings. We're not going to trust your feelings, and therefore blocking that intuitive connection. Men have been taught to rationalize, to think it through. If it doesn't make logical sense, if I can't rationalize your feelings, if I don't understand your feelings, I'm going to block them. And what that does is it blocks the intuitive connection. And this is an incredibly important piece towards heightening and intuitive sensitivities. Because your intuition comes from the higher self. It comes from God. It comes from divine source. It comes from the universe. And the universe essentially is one being having separate experiences. So anything that we create that isn't for the greater good of all isn't going to get the intuitive guidance. You'll get a little bit. You might get a little bit, but certainly nothing like what you and I are talking about, and certainly not at the level that I'm working at. Okay, so we have to train ourselves to feel first. And then we recognize that the logical mind is actually designed to be the servant, not the master. And society has promoted through patriarchal rule that the logical mind be the master, which means you've got a servant with no training, no power, and no sense of awareness, because that comes through the feeling body. So can you see how society
Oh my gosh.
has destroyed the intuitive connection by deliberately sabotaging the masculine and the feminine balance? And again, it's got nothing to do with gender, because everybody gets a logical mind, which is masculine energy, and everybody gets a heart, which is feminine energy. It's in merging those two. And this is what I talk about in my audiobook, Math A Magical, math and magic. Okay. So when those two are harmonized, and what you desire, fourth center, the root chakra, and what you desire is for the greater good of all, now the intuition is able to come through. It's not, you're special, you're chosen, you're not. I mean, I'd love to do a talk about the chosen ones. That's a whole other ego trip. Okay, so what we start to recognize is that when we feel our feelings and we listen to our feelings and we allow them to guide us, they may not always make rational sense. They may not always seem logical, but we're going to recognize that the mind is the second stage, not the first stage.
It's the follower, not the leader.
Right. So we've been programmed through society that if you can't see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, or smell it, it doesn't exist. It's not real. So that means people like myself who've had heightened intuition all my life have been shamed and shunned and called crazy by those that are both, doesn't matter what gender you are. If you are operating with your logical mind as your leader, as your master, as your measuring stick, you're going to run into problems and you will not have the intuitive guidance. And this is where we see psychopaths, sociopaths, and people that are, deep on the spectrum of narcissistic personality disorder. They've essentially severed the connection to the heart. And this is how they're able to do things that are so cruel and manipulative and unkind, because they're no longer being informed by the heart. And then you take the vast majority of women who are predominantly the feelers, okay? The feminine gender is the predominant feeler, but not always. There's no absolutes. So please, that's my disclaimer. There are no absolutes, but it's just the majority of the rule is that the feeler has been discounted and discredited by society, because society rules through the logical mind. And one of the ways that you can check this is by going backwards in the creative process. So number 1 is my idea. 2, is it doable? 3, how do I feel about it? Because that's the power. So if you're really, really afraid of something, you got a lot of power bringing what you fear to you. Like attracts like. Life is a mirror. If conversely, you have a great deal of love, you have a great deal of power to bring what you desire into your reality. Then we go to number 4, which is the root, which says, is what I desire, that is doable, that I love. Ideally, we want to do what we love, not what we're in fear of. But most people right now are operating out of fear. And they wonder why they keep creating crooked little creatures. So once we go to number 4 and we ask ourselves, is what I desire for the greater good of all, harming none, including me? Now we'll get the intuitive guidance. But you have to circumvent the logical mind and trust the feeling first before you're going to gain clarity. So how's that landing for you?
Oh, it's like realigns so many things. And this is what's interesting is like, you hear a lot of these words about manifestation and law of attraction and the chakras and intuition and the logical mind and masculine, feminine, and gender. And it's like the elite, there's a kernel or an essence of truth, and they know this power, they know how this works. And so then it's like,
and they invert it.
yeah.
So they inverted it. And that's where we see, if you take a look at your traditional loving mother, okay, the mother is the one that nurtures. The mother is the one that takes care of the young. The masculine energy is designed to protect and provide for the feminine energy. So the feminine energy's focus can be on the young. And the masculine's focus is on protecting the mother. So the role of a good father is to protect the mother first, so the mother can protect the children. And this is how it works. Okay, so if you look at society now, all you simply have to do is ask yourself whether or not an idea that's being presented to you, whether or not a social program or anything out in the matrix, okay? All you have to do is ask if it's for the greater good of all, causing harm to none, including self. And that is the divine feminine in power, because the divine feminine is the nurturer. Now, the masculine operates the same way. Ideally, men and women are functioning with the heart as their leader and the mind as the servant to the heart, which is the leader. Okay, so if you get, for example, a male who's tuned into his heart, he's going to be tuned into his woman, his female, okay, because he understands the power of his own heart. And then you could just say essentially is that the feminine gets a stronger connection to the heart, because that's the predominant role. And the masculine gets a stronger connection to the logical mind. All right. So if we take a look at what's going on and ask, is this society's latest idea, society's latest push, its latest political agenda? Is it for the greater good of all, causing harm to none, including self? So women have been taught to become disempowered without even realizing it, because we were taught to self-sacrifice, to people please, to overfunction, to burn out at the expense of others. And what we've really done in doing that is we've created a very mentally unstable society who is now righteous and entitled. So if you grew up with a mother who self-sacrificed herself, gave you everything, and burnt herself out in the process, you've now seen a model that says take, regardless of the expense to other. And that is not for the greater good of all, which means that connection, that relationship will be unsustainable. And this is why we're seeing society collapse as we know it. because it is not for the greater good of all.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, divine grace, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter to me. Okay. That infinite source from whence we all come will not give power to sustain, will not give the intuition, the magic, the miracle, the insight, the guidance, the hunches, the nigglies, the whatever you want to call it, in order to manifest what you desire, because it isn't for the greater good of all. And this is how women cut off their intuition, by shutting down their feelings, typically because most females are exhausted, burnt out, worn out, because we've been doing both the masculine and the feminine roles. And the reason we've been doing both is because for eons of time now, we've been producing men who believe that the logical mind, and women too, again, no absolutes, doesn't have everything to do with gender, but they've been believing that if it makes logical sense, go for it, without any witnessing of consequence.
So this is how consumerism gets its fuel, and capitalism, and money above all else. Or not that money's bad, it's just it allows us. And when you're talking about the mental instability, and then we run to the doctors and then get the drugs and then get the DSM diagnosis, all those parts. However, the whole thing that you're talking about gives me so much faith in the future, because whatever's not for the greatest good of all isn't sustainable.
Exactly. It will run its course and come to an end. Okay. Life itself is a spirit force, life itself is a divine gift. And that is for the greater good of all. Even though we come into life and we struggle and we grow and we struggle and we grow, okay, it's still for the greater good of all. So life will continue. We are immortal energy beings, and that is for the greater good of all, causes harm to none. So that's infinite. It's the logical mind that introduces all of the problems, because the logical mind is really actually on its own incapable of creative thought. The logical mind will only regurgitate the computer. If it's programmed to believe this and you say it often enough, we begin to believe it, right? No matter how stupid it is and no matter how much harm it causes. And then the one who's disconnected from the heart and the conscience, okay, now starts to justify pressuring, powering over, and dominating to get what they want at the expense of other. And this is an indicator of somebody who's ruling with the logical mind without the compassion and the infinite wisdom and guidance of the heart. So the heart will always bring us back to each other. The logical mind may not necessarily do that. So when you're meeting people, it's a really good idea. Sip, don't gulp. Take your time to get to know someone, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship, whatever the case is. Take your time to get to know them, to observe whether or not they have harmonized the heart and the head. If they haven't harmonized the heart and the head, then you've got a crooked creature, and somewhere down the road, you're going to pay the price for connecting with somebody who doesn't have that magical connection, which makes ease and flow and unity and community and sustainability. And again, the systems, all of the systems, quote unquote, in the matrix are designed to disconnect us from the heart. Take a look at the medical industry. Okay. Why aren't we getting better?
Yeah.
Why are we getting sicker and sicker and sicker with all of this technology and all the modern blah, 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 blah? Why are we sicker and sicker? Another thing, mental health. Okay, there is no such thing as a chemical in the brain. What you've actually got is somebody who is way out of balance. So they're exhibiting behaviors, beliefs, mindsets that are actually extremely dangerous, and in certain ways from moderately to massively dangerous, because they're disconnected from the heart. And what it is you're seeing people who are out of balance because they've got false beliefs. Their idea of who and what they are is built on a whole big fat lie that we've been told for generations and generations and generations and generations. And so now it's just reached a point where we're disconnected. And if we're disconnected from the heart, I guarantee you we're going to suffer. You do not have the ability to self-reflect. You do not then have the ability to become self-aware. And that's been the agenda all along, to disconnect us. And then We're no longer using our intuition and the innate guidance from divine source to heal our bodies. We're allowing someone to tell us that we've got a chemical imbalance. There is no such thing as a chemical imbalance. You are out of balance in the connection. When you rebalance the connection, you'll restore balance. We've been taught you're good and bad and right and wrong, superior and inferior, winners and losers. And this is all logical mind programming with no heart connection. So the minute you're polarized, you automatically know that you're coming from the logical mind. The heart informing that connection now says, the heart coming from the connection says, it is what it is. We don't need to polarize. Nobody's good or bad or right or wrong. We're all having our own unique experience here. But we as individuals want to develop sovereignty. We want to come to a place where we've got the masculine and feminine connection harmonized ourselves, so that each thought we think, each choice we make, each behavior, each action, each relationship, each situation becomes one that's informed through the balance. Okay. And everybody's got intuition. It's just a question of whether you're listening and how much of it you are listening to. And a lot of us will ignore the intuition, will ignore the gut for an easier, simpler, seemingly faster way. But what we're actually doing is taking ourselves around the long way, because it won't work. It won't sustain itself. So intuition is constantly streaming. Again, as I've said in previous episodes here, intuition is constantly streaming. The question becomes, how in tune are you? So we go back to the 7 centers of creation, the 7 chakras, the energy centers. I prefer to call them energy centers. There's no religion here. When we develop, become more self-aware, when we become self-actualized, developing the capacity to be a sovereign being, self-governing, okay, it's because we've gone through each one of the centers and brought them back to balance, which is essentially saying, I'm taking my power back from the matrix and all the lies that it's taught me about how to operate as a divine immortal having a human experience. And so each one of the centers offers a lesson. And when we come to understand that lesson and integrate the wisdom gained from the lesson, we automatically move back into balance. We automatically become sovereign. We stop competing. We stop comparing. We stop dominating. We stop controlling. Very simple, but not easy.
And ongoing.
Forever.
Like, forever.
Every thought you think. So we want to understand that the first step, the second step, and the third step are happening automatically, whether you're aware of it or not.
Okay.
Okay.
And what's important is paying attention, what you're paying attention to.
Right. We want to start to tune in to how we feel, because how we feel is going to allow us to recognize whether or not what we're doing, what we're thinking, what we're focusing on, what we're creating is for the greater good of all. So if you feel awful about something, that's your intuition saying, don't go there. This is unsustainable. This is not for the greater good of all. You're incurring karma. Karma is not punishment. Karma is a lack of self-awareness, which means we don't understand who we are. We're out of balance, and we simply need to restore balance.
What would you say to the person who is really aware of what's going on in the world? They're living their life, you know, growing their food and doing the things which really contribute to the greater good, and they feel like crap all the time. And yet, I think there's this block of like, I'm a good person if I feel like crap, because it means I'm aware of all the awful things that are happening in the world.
Right.
You know?
So that's going to be somebody who's buying into shame and blame. That's going to be somebody who's, you know, in a sense, martyred themselves. So they believe that because they feel bad about what's going on in the world, that somehow that means they care. No, it means you don't control your emotional body, your feeling body. Okay. You don't know how to control it, because you feeling awful about something doesn't change it. What it actually does is bring more of it. Remember, feeling is power. And we've been taught to feel guilt, to feel shame, and to lay blame. Okay. And it doesn't work. It never works. Conversely, there's this idea going through the mainstream matrix spiritual industry, which just makes me howl. This is ridiculous. It's not an industry. Okay. So there's this idea floating around that says, if I'm aware of the corrupt political agendas, if I'm aware of the corruption in the matrix, I'm also conscious. I'm awake and connected to myself. No,
Right.
you're not. Not at all. So if you're growing food and living off the land and doing all those things that you believe are actually, going to set you free, that isn't going to set you free. That's you being aware of what's going on. So in my world, there's a difference between aware of the corruption and trying to move away from it, okay, and awake to the truth of who and what you are.
I love that you brought this up because our title is Awakening Intuition, and we've spent a lot of time diving into the intuition part, but the awakening and being awake has been co-opted too. And so you're really addressing that piece.
Absolutely.
What are you awake to? That's
Yes,
the key, it sounds
yes.
like.
What are you awake to?
Okay.
Are you awake?
But people are saying, I'm awake about corruption, like wake up to
but
the
that's
corruption.
not awake, that's aware.
Okay.
So what most people don't realize, that until that mathematical connection's made, until the head and the heart are ruling harmoniously together, which society does not endorse, society does not condone, society does not promote. In fact, remember the inversion, society does exactly the opposite to polarize us.
Mhm.
But until you've made that connection and you've pierced the veil, so to speak, you will be aware of the corruption that's going on, or you can be, and a lot of people aren't, ironically. Okay.
Mhm.
You can be aware of what's going on, but you have not necessarily made the intuitive connection. And there's a very, very clear distinction. Okay. A very clear distinction. A sovereign being is aware of what's going on, because you can't awaken without being aware. But
Yeah.
you can be aware without awakening.
Got it.
And a lot of people are, again, ruling with the logical mind and think that because they see what's going on in the system, they fully understand and they're awake. They're not. And you'll know this because they still feel bad for what's going on. They still overfunction. They can be righteous and entitled and needy victims. And those are all indicators that these are people who are not awake and aware.
That's really cool, that distinction. I think a lot of people
totally,
don't know that.
Correct.
Yeah,
Right?
totally
So we
correct.
got a lot of people running around going, I'm awake, I'm aware, I get it. It's like, no, there's a distinction for me. There's a very, very clear distinction. And in all honesty, throughout my embodiment in this lifetime where they call me Lynette, I have not encountered very many people that are both awake and aware.
Mhm.
And so the awakening process that we're going through right now has been deliberately created because this matrix that we've been living in isn't for the greater good of all. Time's up. It's collapsing. Divine grace will no longer support it. No, well, and not even that it won't support it, because it makes it sound like divine grace makes a choice. It's actually it's very clinical. It's very black and white. It's attractive. Divine grace, the universe, doesn't have an opinion or a judgment. It just mirrors.
Okay.
Okay, so the system is collapsing now. And as it's collapsing, anybody who's ready and willing, and ready is something that's determined by, lifetime after lifetime and your current level of awareness. Anybody who's ready and willing, you have to be ready and willing. And most people, the vast majority of humans on the planet right now, are not ready. And once you're ready, you still have to be willing, because you're going to have to consciously choose to embark on the journey of shedding everything that you thought was your identity and moving forward. So most people who are aware but not awake, and you cannot be awake without being aware, but you can be aware without being awake. Let's make that clear distinction. Okay. They don't understand what's going on right now. The vast majority of people don't understand what's going on. I would say I'd be really, really surprised if 25% awaken. The number's not that high, but you will recognize an awakened one, or one who's in the awakening process, the shedding of the false identities. Okay. Letting go of the ego identity. The first stage of consciousness is essentially, I identify as my ego. I identify as my car, my job, my looks, my money, my company I keep, where I live, all of that. People have operated based on the logical mind that says if you drive the right car and you have the right company and you look the right way, you've arrived. And nothing could be farther from the truth, because nobody's ever satisfied. What we're really looking for is that connection, and nothing ever substitutes that connection. And when the connection is made, mental illness imbalance is restored, harmony is restored, unity is the way that you operate, and you become the model of that.
It's a being, not a it's not a conceptual knowing.
It's a state of being. Exactly. It's a state of being. And you will know somebody is in the state of harmonized union based on how you feel around them.
Yeah.
Okay. Based on the way they operate. And you'll find that those of us that are both awake and aware, and I am one that is both awake and aware, and I've been aware and awake since I was a child. I knew what was going on. I knew these times were coming. Okay, there's not that many of us, and you will find that those of us that are both awake and aware essentially march to our own drummer. But marching to our own drummer doesn't mean exclusion and believing that we're special. It means I, as an individual being, am consciously choosing what is for the greater good of all, causing harm to none, including me. Now, before you can move past the fourth energy center, the root chakra, you've got to start to look at things like people pleasing and over functioning and transactional relationships. And
I was going to sneeze. Sorry.
$5 in the jar. That's not something to apologize for. So we're taught by society to operate with the logical mind, the masculine energy as the ruler, which means, it's kind of like saying, you've got a massive castle. Okay. We've got a huge castle, and somebody's gone and pulled a gardener who's never done anything but gardening, doesn't know anything about finance or politics or human resources, right? Running a castle, and said, here, gardener, come and run the castle. You have no training. You don't even actually have the capacity to do it, but go forward and do it. And this is why we're in a state of collapse, because it's not actually possible. And this is why we suffer in society. Because of this. Makes sense?
Totally. So those of us who want to awaken, who feel ready and willing, are willing, yeah. We're not born awakened as the few.
We can be born awakened, yes.
Yeah, but those of us who are not, you are.
Yes, and many are. I'm not the only one, okay? Yeah. Never will I ever put myself on a pedestal and make myself special. It's just merely that I'm more developed than the vast majority, and that's why I came at this time, to be of service and support, to show my brothers and sisters how to do this. Okay, I'm not special. Absolutely not. And anybody who is awake and aware knows they're not special. So the minute you see somebody trying to promote themselves to be superior, to make you inferior, anybody who passes judgments and all those negative imbalanced perspectives, that's your immediate warning. Okay. If they say, listen to me and only me, run. Okay. Because my message is, don't believe me. I might be the biggest liar on the planet. Go to the guide inside. Don't put me on a pedestal. I'll fall off. I'll jump off, or you'll push me off. Right? These are very important distinctions. And you'll see that society has flooded through social media, has flooded a bunch of fake teachers. And society will actually censor and shadow ban the true teachers and promote the false teachers, because you don't know what you don't know until you know what you know. And when you're ready and willing to awaken, you're still seeking. And if there was anything that I would say to someone right now who might be listening, who is like, okay, I'm ready, I get it, there's more. What is it? Trust your feelings. And that in itself is a whole other process, as we become aware of how we've been taught to deny our feelings, to shut down our feelings, to repress our feelings, to depress our feelings, to suppress our feelings. Take medication. So let's take, for example, pharmaceuticals. If you're depressed, okay, that's a whole other thing. You're depressed because you're essentially holding yourself back. But there's going to be a number of situational story lines that are running to create the depression. My point is this: society will tell you that if you take a pill, we cure the depression. No, they don't. What they actually do by giving you the pharmaceutical is they suppress your ability to feel depressed. And in contrast, that feels like relief. And you think the depression's gone. It's not. It's just been chemically suppressed even further. So if you want to start to get in tune with your feeling body, then you've got to look at mood altering chemicals. You've got to get rid of the pharmaceuticals. You've got to get rid of alcohol. You've got to get rid of both street drugs and pharmaceutical drugs that do not serve you, that are dangerous, because they're designed specifically, deliberately, and diabolically to sever the feeling connection. And all you have to do is just start to tune into your feelings. Just start to tune into your feelings and start to give space and start to listen to them. Just start to respect and trust. And the intuitive body will immediately begin to strengthen over time with practice. Chop wood, carry water, one foot in front of the other. No expectations. We don't arrive. We just become more and more practiced and more adept. And that's the only difference between myself and one who is not yet awakened or one who's awakening, is that I'm just more practiced, but yet I continue to practice. I never arrive. I strengthen and deepen the connection myself. I've just reached a point in the game of life where I've recognized what's going on. I'm aware of the crooked political agendas, the evil elites. Okay. And I'm also connected to divine source. So what's going on out there doesn't generate in me the same level of fear, et cetera, because I know it's a game, and the name of the game is sovereign. Take back your power and stop operating based on their unconscious, deliberately diabolical belief systems. There's a lot today.
It's amazing, really deep and rich. I'm loving this. Because walking forward heart first, feeling our feelings and really making the heart the leader in your life is such a less traveled path. And so much programming has gone into, convincing everybody not to live that way. It takes courage. And we've talked about the feeling scale. And so some feelings, like guilt and shame, people think those are feelings. Can you speak to that piece?
If you look at the feeling scale, and I want to talk about empaths for a moment too.
Okay,
if you look at the feeling scale, okay, 0 to 1,000, most people operate under 200. And this feeling scale is something that you can look up online. Okay. So most people operate under 200, and courage happens after that. And the anger comes before the courage, the rational anger, which also then creates what you could call pride or self-respect, which says, hey, wait a minute, look what you've been doing to me. Hey, how come I'm busting my balls here, working my ass off, and I got $3 left, and you're flying around in a private jet telling me that my car's creating too much toxic emission. Like, we got to start to go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And then from that place of rational anger, I've had enough, I'm starting to see what's going on, then the courage will literally rise up from within you to inspire you to move forward. This is really important. Now, one of the things that's also under the spiritual industry marketing plan is the idea that empaths are special.
Yes, so much of that right now.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Empath is being promoted as special and unique and so fragile. Okay, there's no absolutes, please, everybody. Okay, take what I'm saying with some common sense. So the empaths are being taught that they're special and they're very fragile and, they're very sensitive. Well, let's take a look. Somebody who is deeply in tune is highly sensitive, but not fragile. There's a big difference. Yes. And so they're telling us through social programming that empaths are a special group. They're not. Everybody has an empathic system. It's whether you're tuning into it or not. The more sensitive you are when developed, the less fragile you are. So I'm highly attuned, I'm highly sensitive, and I'm not fragile. That's the balance, the connection to my masculine energy, which is my provider and protector. So as an individual, I'm a sovereign being. I have both the feminine intuition and the guidance and the masculine qualities developed to protect my feminine heart. Okay, again, this has nothing to do with gender. So the empaths are being taught that their fragility is permanent. No, it's not. If you're starting to sense, if you're starting to intuit, if you're starting to feel and sense more, the name of the game is for you to now go to your masculine energy to create boundaries, emotional, physical, and psychological boundaries to protect that fledgling sensitivity that's growing and expanding.
To
So
not share it with everybody, everywhere.
no, need to know basis. Hold your cards close to your chest. Discern, sip, don't gulp. Is this person causing me to feel, when I'm in this person's company, do I feel safe? Do I feel solid? Or do I feel destabilized? Do I feel stronger in myself or do I feel weaker? And this is consistent feedback. I know for myself that I've had feedback for, as far back as I can remember, where people will say, you feel different. Yes, because I'm grounded in myself. You can't push me around. Free will choice. I'm sovereign. I'm going to decide. And if it isn't for the greater good of all, and I don't care how much social pressure there is, I will not comply. So I'm able to feel very sensitively and to protect what I feel with the masculine energy, the masculine container, so I'm not fragile. So it's really important. If somebody's sensitivities are developing, you're not fragile. And if you're feeling fragile, you have some work to do. The name of the game is to be very powerful, very sensitive, with a hint of don't fuck with me.
Yeah.
I have the capacity. And this is why so much has been done in society to destroy the masculine and feminine balance. Because it's through the masculine and feminine balance as an individual, no matter what gender you are, that you become a sovereign being. Whether it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's got nothing to do with gender. The masculine and the feminine energy is energy. It's got nothing to do with penises and vaginas. And that's where society is distracting us and causing us to believe through their false narrative. And you don't know what you don't know. So most people, because they're not checking into the guidance system, they're not checking into the feelings for various reasons. Okay. We get disconnected for various reasons because they're not tuning in. They're not able to intuit, to sense, to know with clarity whether or not what they're being told is bullshit. And you'll know it's bullshit because it's not for the greater good of all. And essentially, any system outside of us that rules over us, any system outside of us that we bow down to, and idolatry is a really big one, especially in the Western world, right? We bow down to, I'm not going to say we, a lot of people bow down to Hollywood, to leaders whose names are up in lights and so on and so forth. And it's very important to recognize that by the time somebody reaches that level of social influence, they've been exactly. Okay. So when you're looking for a guide and a teacher, I encourage being very discerning and tuning into your feeling body and trusting what you feel over anything that's told or said or promoted or projected onto you from the external. This is a sovereign being. We are taught, don't be self-centered. Oh, you're selfish. Think of others. Do what's best for everybody else. And in so doing, you abdicate your power, and sovereignty is impossible, as opposed to become centered in self. Okay, which means I'm going to move forward doing what's best for me, not from a place of selfishness, not from a place of being lazy and self-seeking or any of that stuff, but from a place that says, I will not give my creative force. I will not endorse. I will not give my energy or my attention to something that's going to cause harm to anyone. I pull out. And in so doing, you take your power back from the corrupt system, because the system only operates based on everybody abdicating their power and giving the power that is your innate birthright to the system to create what they want, which is crooked little creatures and separation, divide, war, famine, financial collapse.
Belief there is no God, all of it.
Exactly. And God is also a word that I use very, very cautiously, because God is essentially the word that's been used in incorrect ways. So I will use it as an acronym: good, orderly direction, divine source, creative, whatever. It doesn't matter. The word God is hugely connected to religion, and religion is man-made. Okay. Religion is man-made. Sorry, I just thought we had some chats going on there. It was you and I. So this is it's very, very powerful. And as you can see, we can go so much deeper. And you yourself are in the awakening process. And that's how we met.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you'll note that when you're working with somebody who is truly here to guide and serve and support, not because they promoted themselves, not because they took an online course, not because they've been indoctrinated by a religion or approved of by a political agenda. I don't have anything to do with any of that. So a true guide is someone who is here as a sovereign being themselves. They walk the path, they know the way, and simply say, if you're ready and willing, I take no prisoners, volunteers only, then you are welcome to come with me. And I will model the way. I will do my best to do my best. Perfection isn't possible. Perfection is actually what I would definitely call insanity. Okay, there's no way we're ever going to be perfect. And we get lost in that mental maze, just that one alone, trying to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to gain that approval and that acceptance from the external reality, which has a hidden agenda and really doesn't care about you. It's about the corporate bottom line, about money, about control and domination. And when the mathemagical, the math and the magic, the feminine masculine balance is achieved, we are no longer willing to play the game that way because we are tuning into our feelings. And when we play a game that is not for the greater good of all, we don't feel good. And this is why how we feel is so very important.
So I bet this is a little surprising for people that if you want, one of the lessons from our talks is if you want to awaken your intuition and get more access to what's always transmitting, you need to care about feeling good.
You need to care about your own feelings. Now, let's be careful. You need to care about feeling good could be misinterpreted by a sociopath or a narcissist.
Right.
Okay. So it's about being in harmony, being in balance. We want to let go of polarized thinking, good, bad, right, wrong, superior, inferior, winners and losers, success and failure. These are all mind traps that are connected to the logical mind only. And the minute you bring the heart into it, you're going to go, wait a minute. If I'm a winner, you're a loser. Separation, not for the greater good of all. Wait a minute. If I'm a success, I can be a failure, but that's not actually true. I'm not here to be a success or a failure defined by society. I'm here to align and create the reality of my dreams. Heaven is not a place you go to. Heaven is not something you earn. Heaven is something you create through the awakened self and sovereignty.
Is that as above, so below?
Yes. So as above, so below means what's happening in the higher conscious states is something I'm going to allow internally. So as above, so below informs the inner heart. And I talk about this in all the work that I do. If anybody's interested, LynettaLinda.com, mathemagical.com, I'll throw that out there for you. So as above, so below, then becomes, so I'm connected now. And now I'm going to go through the cleaning up process of getting rid of the false identity, which means as within, so without. But it has to be as above, so below, then becomes as within, so without. So I choose daily to connect, to operate based on divine guidance. And I filter and master energy, emotion, and thought internally so that I can be the greatest as without, as within, so without, the greatest expression of this divine connection. Okay, and there are many religions that will say making the statement as above, so below, as within, so without is actually evil. Again, please recognize just about everything in the matrix has been inverted. It's been reversed. So we're awakening to the patriarchal rule. Okay. And I'm not to bash men or masculine or anything like that at all. This is all social conditioning and programming. Okay. I love everybody. I don't like everybody. I don't resonate with everybody. I'm not like everybody, but I love everybody. I may not resonate with you, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. So we've been taught the masculine rules, the logical mind rules. And in so doing, they have thwarted and subverted the feminine power, which is the connection, which is the intuition, which is the insight, which is the magic, which is the miracles. Okay. So the more things that you're going to want to get rid of if you're going to look at going deeper intuition is getting rid of the ideas that luck, no such thing as luck. No such thing as coincidence. No such thing as chance. Everything, 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 everything is happening in perfect divine order. And if your current reality, if your story at this point in time sucks, then you're going to want to clean up inside, because your external is a mirror of your internal. So, for example, myself, and I believe this is also becoming true for you, my world is at peace. I don't experience drama. I don't watch television. I'm extremely cautious about social media that I tune into. And in fact, I resist social media. So I don't do a lot of public events because I just don't want to be a part of it. And if you do have to be a part of it, be very, very careful.
That's
Practice.
why this is so special, everybody, that Lynette's here with us.
Well, it's not okay. Again, special. It's not special. It's
Unique
just
that
perhaps you
you're
could say rare.
Mhm.
It is rare.
Good.
And if you look at what's happening in our current society globally, you will see what I'm saying is true.
Mhm.
So social media, television, external programming, anything outside of you is, well, not anything, because there are positives happening, but the predominant is negativity that's been ruling. Okay. And that's collapsing. So that's a good thing. But we want to take the time to discern whether what we're tuning into is good for us. Take, for example, horror movies. Okay. I had a friend who wanted me to watch a movie the other night, War of the Worlds. And I was like, I can't watch this.
Uh-huh.
This person said to me, oh, there's not that much violence or anything. It's like, no, I'm sorry. I am going to use my masculine energy and my discernment to protect my feeling body and my psyche. Okay.
Mhm.
From that, why on earth do people consider horror movies entertainment? You're actually causing the mathematical balance to go into fight or flight.
Mhm.
So I won't watch it. I can't. I literally won't. And it's not because I'm fragile, anything but. It's that why? And I also don't go eat manure either.
Mhm.
Okay, it's not good for me. That's essentially the bottom line. Okay.
Maybe better than fast food, but there you
Well,
have
slightly actually, there may be more nutritional value in it than fast
it. Totally.
in the vast majority of restaurants, period. And the
Mhm.
restaurants are forced through economic control, et cetera, the various different ways. They're forced to give us really, really toxic food. And we
Yeah.
just gobble it all up thinking, well, everybody else is doing it. Just follow the herd.
Yeah.
Okay. And you'll find that the path to sovereignty, awakening, and creating the masculine feminine balance, which is the heightened intuitive state, okay, means you don't follow the herd. It means you go the other way. So if you're somebody who still seeks external approval, if you still need somebody outside of you to validate you, if you need that approval, then you may not be ready yet. It's when you finally hit that bottom and you realize that all the external approval in the world, all the followers in the world, all the fame and the money in the world is not actually causing me to feel good. And only the mathematical masculine feminine balance harmonized state is what will cause us, allow us, enable us to feel positive. Again, positive and negative, that's polarity too. What's
Well,
positive?
it's alignment, right? That thing we're actually seeking, that, and it's a visceral, physical, emotional, every level sensation is alignment.
Multidimensional. And
Yeah.
this is where we start to witness, and we can maybe talk about this in a future chat, in the next chat, the different kinds of sensitivities that come through. Most people don't realize how many different ways we can receive information.
Mm.
And it's because the information highway, you could say, is all jammed up with lies and false beliefs and, bullshit. Really. It is what it is.
How we can start by recognizing every feeling is information, whether it's depression or anxiety. It is trying to speak to us. Let it in.
And then we have to work through the layers. So if somebody is deeply out of balance, they're going to need to be starting at the bottom of the feeling scale, which is to get rid of shame and blame and fault finding. Those are all societally created belief systems. Divine source doesn't do shame and blame. What is love? What is love? Unconditional acceptance and unconditional appreciation. We've been taught that love is power over, dominance, lust, romance. That is not love. We are love. We are unconditional acceptance, unconditional appreciation. And when we're in that sovereign, aligned, centered in self state, you can accept what is. You don't create resistance. It is what it is. I choose to invest or not. My own free will. Do I want to give it my energy or not? It is what it is.
And that's
I
the
don't need to
ultimate.
change you. I don't need to control you. I don't need to dominate you. You do you, I'll do me. If we resonate, great. If we don't, great. No judgment, no opinion, no unreasonable expectations. So if we're going to make the decision to begin the awakening process, then it must begin in the feeling body. It must begin by connecting to your food supply, your sustenance, everything that we need. And that begins with the masculine feminine balance. So men have been taught by society to sever the heart connection because you can't see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, or smell it. And women have been taught to abandon the feeling because they weren't safe in their feelings and they didn't have that masculine energy to protect them. You'll note that the vast majority of abuse in relationships is perpetrated from men toward women. And that's because the women need the masculine energy to protect us. And this is also why they're tearing apart the nuclear family. And they've got the men all confused and driven by lust and porn and vanity and money and power over and control and elitism. Okay. And in so doing, the women have no warriors. The masculine energy is designed to be the protective, providing warrior. And the feminine energy is the soft, compassionate, but incredibly powerful source connection. So without the masculine as an individual, if I didn't have boundaries, I would literally go crazy with all the intuitive sensitivities coming in. So this is another reason why I want to let people know that if you are operating under the belief system that says you can take a weekend course and become a Reiki master, absolutely not. You're playing with fire and you're most likely incurring karma. The instrument, okay, affects the outcome. And if the individual's level of consciousness thinks it knows, but hasn't gone through the awakening process, which is in certain points very painful. This is why you have to be ready and willing, otherwise don't bother. Okay. And this is why we typically reach a point of such collapse and existential crisis before we go, okay, fine, now I'll do it. Because we just literally can't go on any longer in the imbalanced state, which is so painful. The longer you're there, the more painful it is because we're not meant to be there. We're meant to be here. So metaphorically, you could say, I'm going to stand on my tippy toes and tell myself through society's conditioning and programming, I'm meant to be on my tippy toes. You're not meant to be on your tippy toes. And you won't be able to hold it for long. Doesn't work. And most people are out there trying to stand on their tippy toes, telling themselves and believing that that's the ideal. It's not. It's just misdirection and confusion designed deliberately to prevent you from moving into the sovereign aligned state, which has the capacity to be dangerous. Another program that we've been taught, which prevents us from connecting to intuition and the masculine feminine balance. Another program is that we've been taught, especially as women, to be angry is unattractive and undesirable. And men have been taught it's okay to be angry. It's okay to lash out on everybody. It doesn't matter. So wonderful dysfunctional programming there, right?
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is this physical reality is dangerous. Okay, it's shark infested waters out there. The blood and the bullets are real. And if you haven't developed that masculine connection, mental, physical, and emotional boundaries for yourself, your intuitive cannot rise up. It's not safe in this reality. It can't survive. So we have to get rid of the idea that rational anger is not good. Society, anybody who's controlling you doesn't want you to get angry because, again, anger leads to courage, leads to change on the feeling scale, right? So once we're ready, we go, okay, that's it. Enough. I'm willing to make the changes that I need to. Going forward is actually now starting to look more attractive and less painful than going back and standing on my tippy toes.
That's a
Okay.
great analogy. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we need to, oh yes, gosh, we've gone a whole hour again.
Gosh, I'm going to be listening to this one again.
Yeah, for sure.
That
So
was
we will be
awesome.
back again. I don't remember our next date, but if anybody wants to find out, I believe you can follow me on Instagram. Yes, you can. That sounds ridiculous. Yes, you can. LynettaLinda.com for a network. I have a private online network. Chris is a member of the network, and we are a group of people who are working together to master energy and emotion, to support each other in the process, and to enjoy life in a whole new way. It's very, very powerful when you're no longer controlled by external forces.
Yes.
Then life gets beautiful. Then you can experience heaven on earth. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. We
Thank
do have
you,
to.
Lynette. We'll
Been
see
a
you next.
pleasure as always. And I do believe we're back on next week. So
I think we are, and we'll talk about the different sensitivities. So that'll be a
yes,
great
yes.
one too.
So if you want to hear what we're doing, please turn on notifications and you will know when we're going live.